Friends, good afternoon. This week, on Tuesday, the 15th, November 15th, we will be gathering a group of people at 7 p.m. here in person at St. Thomas to embark on an important chance to do some self reflection. Ryan Watson and Dave Licious have offered to help co lead this effort, and it's a curriculum called Sacred Ground that's been put together by our national church leaders to help people in communities to dive a little deeper and do some hard work around an important subject that touches all of us, and that is racism, both in our own selves, but also in our community. I know this is a hot political topic, and this is not about that. It's about doing something as a faith community that is critical and important. In our baptismal covenant, we all take a vow to respect the dignity of every human being. That is to live in a way that we are respecting those around us as if the image of God is within them and as if they are also fellow children of God. And there's so much in our society that leads us sometimes in directions that we might not even know or we might not understand. So, the work that we're going to go about doing is spending time as a faith community and being willing to ask hard questions, to listen, and to go a little bit deeper in our understanding of those around us that might be different from us, but also to grow in our own understanding of ourselves, maybe some of the assumptions that we make, maybe some of the lenses that we see the world through, and to come to new understanding and to allow space in our lives for God to bring healing to our community, but also to help us in being closer to the disciples that God would intend us to be. You're going to hear in the next few minutes a little bit more from both Ryan and Dave as they share some of their perspectives and why they're helping lead this program. We'll begin again this week on Tuesday, November 15th at 7 p.m. And if you're interested, you can let me know by responding to this email, or you can also simply show up at the church as we begin this process. Our first session this week is introductory, and we'll be going a little further into it. So even if you just want to come and find out more about it before we begin the formal study, we hope you do. So Dave and Ryan, thanks again for your leadership, and I hope you take a good listen to what they have to say.
Yeah, I'm Ryan Watson, and I've been a member at St. Thomas going on 4 years. As a person of color, observing what is happening in our society, the environment is incredibly toxic, incredibly filled with hate. It's a poignant moment, I believe, for me and others to listen to the call, and that call is to take some action, to do what we can to combat hate with love. So I'm compelled to lead with love to try and fight the hatred that seems to be growing at a alarming rate in our society. We are all children of God. He asks us to love our neighbors as we would love ourselves. So the church could certainly be a beacon of hope in that regard, and also an example of what love can do when it's trying to combat hate. So I just think that we can be a beacon of hope and an example of what a church congregation can do individually and collectively to fight hatred. Well, I think first of all, understanding that it's hard work, it's long journey. It will be, in a lot of cases, uncomfortable because the information that is contained within the Sacred Ground modules take a really poignant look historically and factually of how this country has embedded racism, systemic racism in our society and our culture. So I think, getting comfortable with some uncomfortable topics and being willing to listen and learn and be better informed, I think is really the right kind of preamble to going into this type of a session or sessions. So I just think people need to be really open and not get defensive and not feel like this is a finger-pointing exercise and trying to find a way to blame people that are here. I think we're all wanting to be part of the solution.
Sacred ground. About 2 years ago, I participated in a sacred ground circle, as they're called, with 43 other people. And the thing that was surprising to me was how little we knew about the subject matter that was covered by Sacred Ground, which is essentially a review of the history of white privilege and its effects on other ethnic groups, both in the past and currently. And the general reaction of virtually everyone in the group was embarrassment that we really had no clue about the subject matter, about the effects it had on other people, and that we were involved in it simply because it's how society works for white people. And I don't know of anyone in that particular group, and these are all highly educated people, and none of us had been exposed to this material ever before. The general reaction was overwhelmingly positive. I've told people since then that this was the most important study that I've ever been involved in, or program I've been involved in, since I attended a Curcio weekend back in the 70s. So it had a huge impact on everybody in that group. We feel that, and I feel, that the Sacred Ground is really at a super important program. It really deals with truth-telling, as Bishop Curry describes it, and provides an opportunity for truth-telling at a deep level, not at a shallow level, where people can discuss these things in a safe place and in a cordial way. The one thing that sort of surprised me was there's no guilt orientation. No one came away feeling personally degraded, just kind of embarrassed because we didn't know. Each session, and there are now 11 sessions, there were 10 at the time I went through, each session is organized into a general gathering, introduction, general comments about that particular session and its subject. Then the group breaks up into small groups, and they have discussions on the subject for that session. And then we gather again at the end and review what the discussions raised and the information that people feel needs to be discussed. There can be. The general rule is 4 hours of study every 2 weeks. The sessions are held 2 weeks apart. They involve either video materials that you look at or you view, and written material. There are 2 core books. One is called Waking Up White, which is an autobiography written by a well-to-do lady who lives in Massachusetts. And the other one is a much heavier piece by Howard Thurman called Jesus and the Disinherited. I think it's important. I think it's really important. My general belief is that if you don't know what the problem is, then you really can't deal with any kind of solution to the problem. And you can unwittingly be involved in perpetuating the problems. So I think it's very important. It's certainly been important to me, and I think that opinion would be shared by everyone that I participated with in the group before.
Understanding perspective on how and why we got to where we're at from a systemic racism perspective in this country is critically important. I just think the level of education, or lack in a lot of cases, around what really has transpired in this country provides a real disconnect between getting past the hatred, the biases, to getting to the point where we see each other as children of God and that we love each other as we would love ourselves. That educational process, I think you're not going to find that Sacred Ground is going to give you the magic bullet. It's not going to give you the key to success, but it'll give you a roadmap, and also, I think, give you a perspective that helps you go about this journey in a much more productive way and informed way, and also enlightened.